It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Friday, November 7th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high-quality content that loves a Dan Vladar redemption story and a Matvei Michkov comeback.
Yeah, good game.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade. I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 20 years, Russ Cohen. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com. You can win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. To keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter. And of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're going to get into everything about the win over the Nashville Predators. We're going to preview the rematch against the Ottawa Senators. And we are going to start our draft coverage, Russ, which I know you're excited about.
Always.
We're talking about JP Hurlbert. So very excited to get to that as well. Now, with this win over the Nashville Predators, we got a couple of things. We got Dan Vladar kind of back to form after he struggled for a couple games, which was important. We got that Matvei Michkov goal, which was important, off a great play by Cam York.
Yep.
And I think, those were two very important things that we've been talking about here.
Those were important things. And yeah, Vladar definitely, I think it was second period there. He was under siege for a while. So that was important. But how come it didn't get Michkov more minutes? He only had 12:52. Like, this is formulaic. That's all I'm saying. I keep pointing this out, and you can't convince me that this isn't part of the plan at this point.
Well, I think, it's something we're going to have to look at what happens in the next game, because I think there's a lot of reason to reward him with more ice time, and there's a lot of reason not to, based on his play.
Any other player, any other coach, the guy gets rewarded when he scores a goal, and he hasn't scored a goal. Usually he's back out there quick.
That's the problem is he had such a disastrous first period with all those giveaways that I think that is a factor they're going to consider. Do I agree with that decision? No, I think you're right. I think he needs more minutes. I think playing through it is the right way to go, and he should be rewarded for that goal. I don't necessarily know that he will be, just because of those giveaways.
Okay. And Grabenkin didn't get enough minutes, but I saw a lot of good things otherwise. But that's what I'm saying. Rick Tocchet will praise these young guys, and then he'll cut their minutes easy. Like, that's what he's showing me.
Yeah, one thing, though, besides all of that was really good, and Travis Konechny talked about it a little bit in the locker room afterwards, and just how they're able to roll with the punches with the line changes, because there was a lot of adjustments that happened in game, and we saw, some combinations that didn't start off, and, even the broadcast mentioned, when you put Brink back out there with Kate, something happens, right?
That's
true. And Travis Konechny kind of agreed with that.
Well, I mean, it's hard not to agree with it, because they're two of the guys that really work the hardest on the team.
Right.
And so, when you do that, like we talked about on other shows, Cates is one of those guys willing to go to the net. He's one of those guys that works hard in the dirty areas. Brink has become one of those guys too. So when they're together, they get that done. And so, I think it's just natural. I don't see a reason to break them up ever, honestly.
No, I think even if teams are matching up against them hard, I think
they
play hard. So be it. Yeah, they play hard enough to overcome that.
I agree.
And I think they've earned the right to play together.
Yeah.
To be honest, but I do think that it is interesting how Cates in particular can kind of lift the prospects of everyone he plays with. And one thing that, somebody he didn't play with was Trevor Zegras. And Zegras didn't stand out as much this game. He didn't play badly at all. I'm not saying that.
No.
But this just wasn't his game to shine in particular. But, you look at who he was playing with. Owen Tippett, who's struggling, Dvorak, who can only do so much.
Right.
And, Zegras can't do it all on his own. He needs somebody to
No.
make those nifty passes too, right?
Well, and that is one of the things, and with this team is it's hard to kind of get them all going, and that's what we've been talking about, and so that's a fair point.
Yeah. Now, when you put it all together in the end, I think that this team is showing a lot more so far this season than it did last season, as far as letting things roll off them, moving on to the next game. They don't get mired in like patterns of things going wrong,
Yeah, I agree with that.
and it's led to them, giant bucket of salt here, not even just a grain, but a bucket of salt because it's early, looking at this many games in, and the Flyers are in a wild card spot right now, tied exactly with the Toronto Maple Leafs, which if you had said to me even, 14, 15 games into the season, would they be tied with Toronto in the Eastern Conference? I would have said, no way.
Yeah, I think we all would, but we also, like you said, we know it's early too, so you have to just look at it and say, okay, let's see how the play carries through. But they're definitely playing different hockey, and that's good.
Yeah, and they're 7-3 in their last 10. And one thing that is emphasized over and over again in the NHL is getting those points early, because when fatigue sets in and injuries and all of that happen later in the season, if you've banked those points early, that will help you in the end. And I think the Flyers are doing a good job at that for the most part. And it does feel like those 2 losses at home are just erased at this point.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I there's no reason to go back to it. That's for sure.
Right. Now, another thing that happened, which I appreciated, was the Kate's goal was a rebound attempt. And that's something we've been harping on as well, as far as them creating secondary chances here.
Yeah.
And in this game, they got a goal out of it, which is a good thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, you want to see more of that. And I'm sure Rick Tuckett wants to see more of it. We want to see some different guys doing that. I think that's the key. We talked about the guys that do it.
No, I think that's a fair point. And, Cates is the role model for stuff like this. And I think Cam York, despite getting banged up quite a bit in this one, he had a really good game. I was glad to see it. Travis Sanheim, despite the missed breakaway, I thought had a really excellent game defensively throughout. Super solid. So I'm feeling very confident about that top pairing there. I think they're doing excellent work so far this season. One of the funny things about our preview, and we talked about potential trade possibilities with Nashville. We mentioned Ryan O'Reilly there, and man, did he look good in this game. And the whole time I was like, can we trade Owen Tippett for him right now?
Yeah, he looked good. I mean, he was very assertive. I didn't look and see what he was on faceoffs, but he's usually pretty good on that. But yeah, I noticed him on the ice. Yeah, he was 56% on faceoffs.
Yep. That sounds about right there. I'm curious what you thought about how kind of chippy this game got, especially in the second period, and Garnet Hathaway's role in that, because to me, that was the really the only downside to this game, was that I thought it was a little unnecessary, and it forced the Flyers to go on the PK a little bit more. Luckily, the Flyers PK looked great again, but I think that's something he's got to tamper down a little bit.
Yeah, he's got to dial it back. I thought that was a little unnecessary, and was like, you're really, the team just got the lead, and you're doing this with the extra business. It wasn't a great spot. It worked out. They got over it, but it's not something you want to keep doing.
Right. And, considering they had to get themselves out of a rough spot the way they played in the first period, which they did successfully, mind you, they, second and third period were much, much better on that front. So I wasn't quite as worried about what happened in the first period, simply because they played so well in the second and third. And of course, Vladar was there to prevent multiple goals in the first. So, it was fine. I just think that kind of behavior just isn't going to help you in the long run, no matter how good your PK is.
No, I agree. I just felt like it was like you were doing fine. Now you kind of went over that line. And it's like, that's the thing with Hathaway. Sometimes he gets carried away.
Yeah. But mostly good stuff in this one.
Mostly good.
Really appreciate the effort and excited to see what happens next. And that will be against the Ottawa Senators, who lost in overtime to the Boston Bruins last night while the Flyers were playing. They're in a lot of ways similar to Nashville on the struggle bus. And we're going to get into that and what's causing it, as well as preview the matchup coming up next.
Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've heard them all before. It's just stress. I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. No awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. Visit Rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL to get 15% off your first order. That's Rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL. Don't forget to use our code LockedOnNHL so they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves.
On our Monday show, we are going to recap the game we're going to talk about right now, and that is the second matchup of the season between the Philadelphia Flyers and Ottawa Senators. And again, another weird scheduling thing where we've now played them twice. Okay.
That's it. Can't play them. Got to play them.
Well, we've got
play them early. You got a little bit more with them left.
We've got one more in February, right before the Olympic break, actually. So, it is what it is. But as we recall, on October 23rd, the Senators defeated the Flyers 2-1. It was kind of a sloppy game, and I think both teams would have liked that game back a little bit. It is interesting because I feel like Ottawa and Nashville are in similar situations. Now, Ottawa's record overall is better than Nashville's is, but not by much. And the Ottawa record is similar to the Flyers right now. The Flyers are slightly better than them, but much like the Predators, there's more of a panic around the Senators than maybe you would think, given what their record is.
Well, I mean, Brady Tkachuk being out, causes the panic, and them not getting the goaltending they thought they would get is the only reason why they're in Nashville's boat as far as talking about the two teams. If they were getting good goaltending, they would have more wins. And so I'm just waiting for when that goaltending kicks in. Like that's really the whole thing, because it should. And if it does, then they become harder to play against. They certainly have the defensemen that move the puck out like they did last time, and they do a good job with that. And they actually play pretty good defense. They're still trying to figure things out with Tkachuk because he did so many things for them. So I think that's hamstrung him to some degree, and I think the goaltending is the other big problem.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Now, since we saw Ottawa, they won 3 games and lost 2. They were facing Boston at the same time as the Flyers were facing Nashville. So that's like not including that. But I think the story of those games is a lot of scoring, whether they were on the winning side or the losing side. And that's kind of the unpredictability of their goaltending in a lot of ways. And I think that, it is really a conundrum for them what to do, because should they make a panic move here with the Tkachuk situation, or should they hold on and see what happens? And I don't think they have the answers to that question.
No,
yet.
I think it's developing. Like I think they're trying to survive.
Right. Now, with the goaltending, I do think we're going to see Marilainen in this one against the Flyers, mostly because we just saw Ullmark play last night.
Right.
He'd played the last 3 before that. Plus, they're in a back-to-back situation. So they're playing the Flyers in the first half of the back-to-back, and the second half is against Utah, which has been quite successful this year. So I would expect Ullmark to get that start and Marylainen to face the Flyers here, which would be different than the last time around. So, I think,
although the Flyers are a conference game, so they could look at it that way and not worry about Utah as much. And so I think you're mostly right, but I wouldn't be shocked if I see Ullmark.
I mean, anything can happen for sure.
Yeah, there is that part of it.
Yeah. Now, Ole Lycksell, who's famously scored against the Flyers in that last game, was a scratch last night. We'll see if they put him back in.
They're going to put him back because he scored
against the Flyers.
That's my guess.
Yeah. I think, I would if I were them.
Oh, sure. Why not?
Yeah. Now, aside from this high scoring games, no matter how they went against, for the Senators right now, the trend for them is that they're taking a lot of shots and getting scoring chances from them in a way that the Flyers are not quite there yet on. And the Senators have a much better shooting percentage right now. So at 5-on-5, they're at 10.55% and the Flyers are at 8.61%. Ottawa's 8th overall in the NHL, in that stat. And I think, that is a significant difference.
It is, because, I mean, that gives them the ability that, hey, if they're getting outshot like 2-1, they could still be in the game because they're taking good shots. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be.
And the 2-1 was the final score of the last game, right?
I think it could be similar to last game, like just a toss up that way. And that's kind of what I'm expecting.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see if it plays out like that again, or it turns into like chaos theory, right? Because it could end up being like a 6-5 kind of game.
Yeah.
I do think it's going to be close regardless.
Yeah, I think it'll be close.
Yeah, you mentioned the weakness in net. Ottawa's the 3rd worst team in save percentage.
And they shouldn't be.
No, not with those guys. So I think that's something that could turn around at any moment, to your point. We'll see if it's against the Flyers or not.
Right.
Now, the other interesting aspect is that both teams are very, very good defensively on the scoreboard, right?
Right.
But if you look at 5 versus 5 shots against per 60, the teams are neck and neck in terms of what they're allowing.
Right.
Per 60 there. So it's 23.68 for the Flyers and 23.78 for Ottawa. So that's essentially identical there. And and that just shows that the goaltending has been the difference for the Flyers between these two teams.
Yeah, no question. I mean, the one thing, the Flyers have definitely done a good job with that, and the goaltending has been better than last year. I think the one thing Ottawa has going for them is when you have somebody like Tyler Clevin that could really bash guys, besides having a really good shot, that could end up being a factor depending on who lines up against him. So that's something where if he's rubbing out some guys, that could keep the score down.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to see what lineup we get versus Ottawa. I think, the gut instinct says Taka is going to put Delorier in for that reason.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it makes sense from a shot generation perspective either.
I don't think so either, but he very well may do that. Will Emile Andre be in there? I mean, Rick Tockett's talking up a blue streak about him, but he still has to give him more than 10 minutes a game. So where does that fall in?
I mean, I think he will. I think he's going to give him this sustained run now. I think if he doesn't do it now, when can he? To be honest,
I think you're right. I that's what I'd like to see.
But I think that is important. Now, the other aspect of this is the ebbs and flows of the Flyers special teams, right? It's kind of been, as we know, a little bit inconsistent, even though the penalty kill has been generally excellent.
It's been real good.
There's been little dips here and there, but they're 6th overall in the NHL on the penalty kill, where the Ottawa Senators are a whopping 32nd in the NHL. So if you're looking to not great at all. So if you're looking for another opportunity for the power play to find some success, this is an excellent opportunity for that.
Yeah, I mean, because the Flyers power play now is like just above the middle of the pack, and that's really good for them. So if they keep that up, you would think everything matches up well on this one. But, maybe Ottawa is going to be smart and not take too many penalties. Like if you're the coach, that's probably what you're saying.
Oh, of course. And for the Flyers to be middle of the pack on the power play, I think is above and beyond expectations,
Oh, yeah.
to be honest.
Right now it is.
Yeah, and I think without Tyson Forster, it's hit or miss, but I do think they're finding success where they need to at some point. So I think that'll be an interesting matchup to see what's going on there for sure. The Senators have been allowing a lot of goals in general, a lot of which were on the penalty kill. So Flyers have just got to take advantage of all of that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I don't think they're going to get a ton of power plays in this game, but if you get 2 or 3, you got to hit 2 or 3. I think that's going to be the key here, because I don't remember how many they had in that first one, but they definitely squandered at least 2 or 3 in that first matchup.
Right. Now, I think the other opportunity the Flyers are going to have here is getting the right matchups because of having home ice this time. They were in Ottawa last time around, and Ottawa, as we know, is amazing at faceoffs, right? They're first in the NHL, 59.6%. That is phenomenal.
That's amazing.
I know. It's just
there's a guy there. Can't remember his name, but he's pretty good at faceoff.
Never heard of him. But that being said, I think getting the favorable matchups when possible, not that any of them are favorable per se, but at least getting the most ideal matchups for the Flyers is going to help them. And, we've been seeing a couple of successful set plays sprinkled in here and there for the Flyers, and that could benefit them on this front.
Yeah, if I'm the Flyers, I really do have to kind of watch out for Claude Giroux. He's not going to be coming through Philly all that many more times in his career, and you do know that he's going to try and ratchet it up, and they probably are a little bit desperate. So I would really have to watch him in this game.
Well, I'm not sure whether to be sad or anxious about those things, but
just a fact of life.
It is a fact of life as athletes get into the waning years of their careers. But we'll see how it goes, and we'll talk about it on our Monday show. I know it seems a little early, but we do have a very intentional prospect focus on this show. And so we are going to kick off our 2026 NHL draft coverage and talk about JP Hurlbert coming up next.
The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who'll score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. I still would go with the Brooklyn Nets having the worst record in the league. They're keeping with that. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
So the 2026 NHL Draft, which is way down the road here, the story around that draft is obviously Gavin McKenna, right? That is the one name that we hear constantly, and with good reason. He's a phenomenal player, and he should go first overall. I don't think there's any question about that.
I think there's a little question, but very little.
Very little. So, when we approach this upcoming draft, we got to look at the other guys, because let's be real. Now, it is ridiculous to look at Tankathon at this point, and I wouldn't even entertain that fact. But the Flyers do have, as of now, 5 picks in the upcoming draft. They have a first, a second, and a third, a fifth, and a 7th rounder at this moment. That will probably change around trade deadline.
Yeah, they'll increase a couple picks. They need more than 5.
They do. But I think as far as looking at potential first round picks for the Flyers, starting kind of mid first round in terms of where preliminary reports are, is a good place to start. And
yeah, I think so.
And that's where JP Hurlbert comes into the picture. He is a kid who won't be 18 until April, so he'll turn 18 plenty of time before the draft. He's 5'11", 176 pounds. He's a left winger. And he has a really interesting story because he had been with the national team development program, but moved over to junior hockey in the WHL playing for Kamloops now. So, like, what's his story here?
Yeah, I mean, he's from Texas, and he really dominated with the Dallas Stars elite program. He had 195 points, 112 goals, 83 assists back in 22-23. I saw him a short time after that here in New Jersey, and started watching him and really was impressed. I interviewed him. That interview is still up on sportsology.com. And I was like, I got to keep a track of this guy because there were things that he did even then that I really liked. I liked his hockey IQ. I liked the fact that he wanted the puck on his stick, those few things. So then, he's with the NTDP last year and he had a good year. Like on that U17 team, he was the top scorer. And that's even more than Cole McKinney and other guys who have already been drafted. So that's pretty impressive. So why did he leave? I don't know. But people have left that program. So he left for a really good chance to play in the WHL with some great players. Like Kamloops is a really good team. Nathan Bem is a hell of a player. I'm sure they're still on the same line, and Bem's got 27 points in 17 games. Now Herbert's got 34. So I think this has probably opened some eyes to some people who were kind of like thinking, Herbert's a first rounder, sure, but like, where does he fall in the first round? Well, I think now if he's going to lead the WHL in scoring, or at least be in the top 5, I think he's going to be in the top 10. We'll see if he holds that, but he has all the abilities you want. He has gotten stronger. I interviewed him a few weeks ago. That interview's up on Elite Prospects, and I'm still impressed with him. I still think he's had a great background. I don't think his family puts too much pressure on him, and he just has fun out there.
Like, that sounds fantastic. And the thing that is interesting about him, obviously, it is early, like we've been talking about, in terms of can he sustain this scoring pace that he's on right now. It's almost 2 points a game at this point to start the season, and that's why he was named Player of the Month in the WHL for September, October, right? So it is hugely impressive and a great start to the season. And I think where he ends up falling, even if he continues at this rate or even just slightly falls off a little bit, so he's at 1.5 per game by the time the season's over, which is excellent. The contrast between NCAA hockey and junior hockey and what path guys are taking is still going to be part of the storyline here in terms of where he comes out in the wash, right?
Yeah, the thing he has going for him is he's playing up in age still, even there being 17. So it's not like he's like 18 and a half playing there. No, he's on the younger side of 17.
Right.
So I think that scouts will look at that very favorably. The other things about him are, again, he had to move there. So there, if there was going to be some sort of like lull at the beginning because he's getting used to the place, I think people would have understood. That didn't happen. He told me how this team really went after him and basically, were aggressive about getting him on the team, and he's really fit in very well. So, this is one of those things where now he's going to get on the radar for other things, like maybe the World Junior team and things like that. If it's not this year, it'll be in the future. And so, like, this is definitely elevating his profile. And I think he's always had it in him. I just think now that he's away from the NTDP, I know it sounds crazy to say, but I think sometimes you have to get away from them to kind of show your how good you are singularly. And the other thing is he's played a ton of center in his life. He's playing left wing there because that's what he's playing there, but he still plays center too. He's probably going to be a winger, but he's also a winger who can take faceoff. So, but the fact that he's played center really makes him good all around. And that's been a big thing for him too. He's just a good all around player who coaches trust.
Yeah, and I think the profile of the WHL is such that I don't think that'll be a ding against him as far as, if he gets matched up against OHL players and any comparisons there. And I think you have the opportunities in the WHL and a team like Kamloops that you might not have elsewhere. And that's partially probably why he picked, that team to go to, being heavily scouted. But yeah, I think, when you look at early stats and early results from these guys, that this gives you the opportunity to pick and choose some guys to keep an eye on for the rest of the season, right? And that's why we're bringing him up, because he's exactly that kind of guy. Like, oh, intriguing, let's see what he does, right?
Yeah. So as an example, he's only taken 3 minors the whole season so far, and he's drawn 4
That's a
penalties.
disciplined game.
That's a really good, smart, disciplined game. He's won 49% of his puck battles, according to Instat. That's a pretty good thing. He's got 52% of his shots on goal. So, I mean, he's got a lot going for him. 20% defensive zone starts is above average for a guy his age. Yeah, right now it all looks good.
Yeah, I think the other interesting aspect of this, from a Flyers perspective, is what is the narrative going to be around this upcoming draft in terms of best available versus positional? Because as we know, in this past draft, for the top pick that they had, we'd been thinking center, center, center all along, and then they went with a winger.
Right.
And so is the narrative going to be different? I don't know what it's going to be, if there's going to be a positional thumb on the scale, so to speak, for a defenseman or a center
it
or
shouldn't
whatever.
be, because he could play center. So it's like, it depends what they think about that, unless they're going to ding him for being 5'11", which again, when you watch him play,
which would be ridiculous.
Well, I mean, they've done it before, so I can't say they wouldn't do it again.
Yeah, I mean, 5'11", if he's 5'7", sure. 5'11", that seems ridiculous to me.
Well, I mean, they've done it as recently as just a few drafts ago. So how am I supposed to say that they wouldn't do that again? I mean, Jeep Williams 6 foot, and they kind of acted like he was small.
But he's a defenseman, so that's I differentiate there with size.
Yeah, if you're 5'9" on defense, not like 5'11" or 6 foot, that's different. And so we'll see. We'll see if they, if they're willing to spend a first round pick on a guy who's under 6 foot. Would I? Sure. Every day of the week.
Well, we'll see if a guy like JP Hurlbert is on the Flyers' radar as we get closer to the draft. We're going to continue to bring up prospects like these sprinkled in before the holidays. And then once January arrives, we're going to get into draft mode in full gear, where we'll have prospect profiles at least once a week going into draft season. That will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. We will be back on Monday to talk Flyers versus Sens. We'll have our new nemesis of the week. And as a reminder, we always want to hear from you. If you've got mailbag questions or Flyers thoughts, let us know on any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. It's every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. You can get local analysis on a national scale with NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.